Recording
ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. So now today the section which we are entering in is the concept of yajna in a much more elaborate form. We have already seen the concept of yajna was discussed by Bhagavan in the third chapter, where we found that the idea of yajna in the Bhagavad Gita is not taken in the limited sense of fire sacrifice. The fire sacrifice indeed is yajna, but the basic idea behind the fire sacrifice is that in the Vedic era, even now it is continued to a certain extent, that whenever we have any fire sacrifice, homa, yajna, the idea is that the fire is the mouth of the devas. I offer the oblations to the fire carries those oblations to the deities to whom I am offering, and the deities on receiving the oblations are pleased with us and bless us with bounty. In the Vedic period, you will find that the idea of Deva to a great extent was the personification of nature. Like Indra is the god of rains, Varuna the god of wind, and the yajnas were actually all dedicated to all these, the deities, the personification of nature. The idea was that the nature, when it is just balanced, it helps in the propagation of life, it sustains life, but now and then it can become something which is devastating. The wind is good, but when in the form of cyclone, tsunami, it can be devastating. A particular range of temperature is good for life, but now we know, because of the global warming, the same temperature, if it increases to a bit more extent, it cannot sustain life. We will find all sorts of geographical changes happening. Islands are getting flooded. The shores are getting flooded. The cities which are in the shores will get flooded. So many. And the temperature itself won't be suitable for sustaining life. So we find that always these parameters has to be in certain range to help sustain life on earth. And this, the Vedic Rishi, even in the even the present day, we all realize that fact. The yajnas were actually meant for pleasing the divine, that be kind to us, give us what is required for us, not too much, not too less. Neither there be drought nor there be flood. Just what I want. So the idea was give and take. That I am offering something, in return you give something. And this idea, you just forget about the physical act of fire worship. The idea of give and take that we found was extended in the Satapatha Brahmana. In the later parts of the Vedic area, the Satapatha Brahmana, we find they're saying that the entire world, its entire nature, that behind the nature there are some laws which are working. In the Vedic idea was, it is the Brahman, which is the only reality, which manifests as Shakti, as the world is nothing but the expression of the Shakti, energy. It's all Shakti. Whether it is matter or it is energy, ultimately it is all energy. So the Brahman finds expression as Shakti, and when it finds expression as Shakti, it's not chaotic. It follows certain laws and principles. To give an example, just an ordinary example, these examples are just to understand. We shouldn't take it literally as something synonymous to Brahman. Just take an iron bar. The iron bar is not a magnet, but it has the potentiality of a magnet. Why it is not a magnet? Because an iron bar constitutes of innumerable magnetic dipoles which are scattered. As a result, the magnetic field of one magnetic dipole is negating the magnetic field of the other magnetic dipole, and that way the net magnetic field is zero. But it has the potentiality to become a magnet. If somehow I can align all the magnetic dipoles in such a way that all the north poles are facing in one direction and all the south poles are facing in another direction, that same iron bar, which was appearing to be something inert, no energy, that gets converted into magnet. And once it now see, the Brahman is like the potentiality. It was hidden, that finds expression as Shakti, as energy. And again, that Shakti is not chaotic. We know that the magnetic field follows certain laws. If you scatter some iron filings around this magnet, they will take certain patterns, from which, by observing those patterns, you can say, yes, it follows certain laws, certain principles. So this is a wonderful discovery. This is being spoken of as Om, Rim, Ritam. In Vedas, they use Vachakas to express the principles. Om is the ultimate principle, which represents that Brahman, where all the potentiality is hidden. It is not nothing. That's why in the Vedic area they discovered zero. What's zero? Zero is not nothingness. When a number, say 5 minus 5 is 0. When a particular number balances, a particular unit balances the same amount of unit, it's 0. So it is not nothingness, it speaks of balance. When all the magnetic poles were negating each other, the net result was 0. The 0 was not nothingness. It was speaking of balance, it was speaking of potentiality. And when that balance is gone, then you find it finds expression as energy. Now it has become magnet and it follows certain laws. So that potentiality, that potential form of easiness, of not nothingness, of easiness, there is something which is in the potential form, in the seed form, that is represented as Om. That is the Vachaka of that easiness, which finds expression as Shakti. The Vachaka of Shakti is Rim. And then that Shakti is again not chaotic. If it was chaotic, creation wouldn't have been possible. As it follows certain laws, which is universal, which is everywhere. So that Shakti which is finding expression as laws, as principles. In Sanskrit, those laws are called the truth. As they're universal, they are the truths. So that is called Ritam. Om, Rim, Ritam. Every day during the Artrikam, the second song which we sing, that Om, Ring, Ritam, Tamachala. That's the first 3 Vachakas have been used by Swamiji to represent it is absolute reality which manifests as energy, and that energy in one form as a rhythm manifests as the avatar. That's specific. But not only avatar, the entire universe speaks of rhythm. Very interesting. You will find that the English word rhythm is so similar to that rhythm. Actually, if you really study the etymology of these languages, you will find they're so akin to Sanskrit. Pita, father, Mata, mother, Bhrata, brother, Swasa, sister. Just you will find it's all etymologically, the root of the words is so similar. So here also rhythm has become rhythm. The laws speak of rhythm. You will find the entire universe has those universal laws. The gravitation which we experience here on earth is experienced anywhere on the universe. And that's why with precision, we can send a satellite for a soft landing in the Mars or in the moon. Because the same gravitational laws, as we know, which is applicable here, is applicable there. With exact calculation, we can project a satellite. So this speaks of the universality of the laws, the gravitational laws, but these are in the physical world. In the living world, there are the moral laws. And there comes all our dispute. In the modern science, with the discovery of all scientific principles, we say that in the religions, in the perennial values, what has been mentioned as commandments, these are all man-made. The do's and don'ts are all man-made. But here we have already made a big mistake by saying that. The moral laws are also as valid as the physical laws. What are laws? The things which you cannot break is laws. If you want to break a law, that is no more a law anymore. A law cannot be broken. If any law is really there, in our attempt to break that law, we will find we are breaking ourselves. We cannot break the law. Just like the gravitation is a law. It is there. It doesn't depend on whether I believe in it or not. It doesn't depend on that. If I just say I don't believe in gravitation and jump out of a 20-story building, I'm not going to fly. I'm not going to fly. It doesn't depend on my believing it or not. Similarly, all the moral laws doesn't depend on our belief. As Swami Vivekananda used to say very nicely, truth doesn't pay homage to the society. Society has to pay homage to the truth or else die. Someone a few months back, a young boy of the class in the 12th year, bubbling with energy and thinking that we, the modern civilization, are highly civilized. And suddenly told it was not a very thing which was acceptable, but suddenly from his way of understanding, he told that all the aborigines, the tribals, they are barbarians. It is the civilization has been brought with education. We have become civilized. Do you see the way of life? They were barbarians. And then I asked him one question. What is the definition of this so-called civilization? Just see what you are calling civilization. In 200 years, we don't know whether we are going to exist for another 100 years or not. Global warming, the way the climate change is happening, everything you just see. It took just 200 years. With your so-called civilization, we are in the verge of extinction. Now we are shouting how to save ourselves. And the so-called barbarians, your historians will say, they were here for 60,000, 70,000. We have calculated, who knows how many years. They were staying with the mother nature balanced way for 60,000, 70,000 years. Now you say me, who are the barbarians? Are they the barbarians or are we the barbarians? Who are the barbarians? They knew that there is some laws. We have to understand that and live with that. In the name of the development of science, the famous statement of Francis Bacon, what's that? Knowledge is power. Everyone take it in a positive sense. But he used it in a very, very extremely negative way, that word, that sentence. What? That the mother nature is not going to give you anything, divulge. She has lot of fuel underneath the earth, fossil fuels. She is not going to give you. Through knowledge, you have to learn the art to extract. That's the power, the knowledge power. And that's what we were doing. And just see where we are at present. We never thought that nature is something which we have to understand and live according to the laws which has been defined there. We thought of exploiting. We thought we know everything. That little learning is a dangerous thing. That now we will understand that with science, with all this boasting of our science, it was just a little learning. Most probably our ancestors knew much better. So that's the thing. That's why we find that in one place, I never used to understand. Swami Vivekananda in one place in his lecture, he's saying that whenever a nation becomes civilized, such a paradox it is in the history, that whenever a nation becomes civilized, with civilization you will be cooperating, you will be non-violent. There will be peace in the society, and suddenly a barbarian will come and destroy your civilization. I never understood. I thought the British came with our understanding in the world, in the name of colonialization. They brought civilization to the world. That's what the British will be preaching to the entire world. But actually, I think Swamiji indicated it was the barbarians who were destroying the civilization. The West acted like a barbarian tribes. The way, the cultures, the civilizations, everything was destroyed. And now, even they cannot deny the same thing. They have learned through these experiences. I was watching a movie a few days back. Just see that how much even the knowledge was there in a different form. When the white came in Australia, they had to take the help of the Aborigines always to really, that now you have the GPS. In this days, everywhere was forest. They had a wonderful sense of direction. If you have to go from one place to the other, you have to go through the forest, you have to take the help of them. They knew the path in a wonderful way. There was no path, but somehow they will find out and take you to the place, and without them you cannot do. And this movie was really horrible. I saw such type of people, when the work was finished, was simply shot. The work is done. They are being hired for that, and when it's over, they are shooting them, killing them. Who are the barbarians? They also had a form of knowledge. If you go to Sydney, still now the old the Victoria Road, you will find is full of curvatures. Nowadays the roads are straight. You know why? They knew where the water flows are there, ducts are there, that where they can access water. Accordingly, they have built the road. That's why it has so many curvatures. And that's why you will find in that road there are so many bridges. Even if you go in Sydney, you will find. And you will find it was wonderful to find out the route in such a way where you can have access to the water. Was knowledge not there? It was there in a different form. We never recognized that. So what we are saying that we do act like a barbarian when we don't understand the laws of rhythm. The same thing happened even with the Darwin's theory. I don't know what Darwin actually, he never meant, he was correct that there is going to be some variation, and there is with the variation there will be what? There is going to be struggle for existence and survival of the fittest. That the one who is more strong, they will be surviving. And from this, the message came to the modern world, it is always the fittest who wins. So it is a question of competition, it is a question of struggle. There is no question of cooperation. From this understanding, Nietzsche, the famous Western philosopher, he started propounding an idea, very dangerous idea. What? That even among the humans all are not same. Some are more advanced, others are not that advanced, intellectually, in other ways. And by the law of nature, those who are not advanced has to get extinct. So why not accelerate the process of civilization by extincting them mercilessly, colonize, and very interesting. They had told that with the Darwin's discovery of theory of evolution, now we have to look at the history, that who are developed nations. The history shows the Greece, the Roman culture you see. They were barbaric. They were just simply cruel. The way they were just going, capturing lands, building, and just see the human civilization went to the zenith of its culture in the Greek civilization, in the Roman civilization. And we will find Swami Vivekananda was the one who studied the entire history so well. In the West, when he went, he's not without giving any reference to Nietzsche. Nietzsche's philosophy was already very much prevalent in those days. Without giving any reference to that, what he's saying in one of the lectures in the Parliament itself. In Parliament, we know only the first lecture, but Swamiji gave total 7 lectures. There were 7 lectures which Swamiji delivered. In one of those lectures, he's saying that if the Greeks and the Romans speaks of the zenith of civilization which came through cruelty, where are they? The one, as per the theory of your evolution, survival of the fittest, they are supposed to survive. And Swamiji's words, in a very plain word, he's saying, where the Romans have built their civilization, There the spiders weaves the cobwebs now. Go and see. Nothing is there. It is just, everything is. So if they're the one who are the fittest, they're supposed to survive. Where are they? And then he's giving the example, whom the world remembers. As he was in the West, everyone knows the name of Jesus. He's saying Jesus, the one who is speaking of non-resistance, cooperation, love. He is still in the heart of the human being, isn't? No one speaks of those tyrannical Roman kings. They're not there. They don't exist. And then Swami Vivekananda gave a very simple example that the so-called competition gives an appearance of evolution. But evolution never happens through competition. It happens through cooperation. And the common example he gives, suppose there is a theater. In a theater, suddenly it is packed, the hall is packed, and suddenly there is an announcement. What's the announcement? That there is a fire. In a very short time, the entire hall is going to be engulfed by fire. So the show was immediately curtailed. The curtain fell down. And it was announced, you immediately vacate the hall. And now there was a chaos. There was a stampede. Many died not because of the fire, because of the stampede. A few could somehow manage to come out. Swamiji says your competition speaks of this evolution. Those few who came out, you say they are evolved. Most probably it was not the question of strength. They were sitting near the exit. Those circumstances allowed them to come out. But then he's giving a nice example. Now just think, this was just an appearance of evolution. If all the people have decided, that's why you will find whenever you just catch the flight, when they are giving the initial, all those security instructions, everything says they follow the instructions, just follow the line. But don't simply run hither and thither. If there is some emergency, follow that cue, what it speaks of. If instead of trying to rush, trying to overdo others, you just follow the cue, then most of them would have came out from that. There wouldn't have been any casualties. Silently they would have came out. That speaks of real evolution where cooperation is there. In the modern world, you will find that for the Darwin's theory, the Stills theory is there, but they are saying that the evolution happened through cooperation. Those who cooperated, they have been proven to be more evolved than the others. Those who were fighting with each other, they have become extinct. Those who cooperated, those group have evolved. So it was a cooperation of the group which gave them the strength. The same theory of Darwin is being interpreted in a different way. And just as I was saying, that if you don't understand the rhythm, what happens? When Swami Vivekananda was going round the West, seeing the idea of competition for colonialization, who can have more colonies, who can extract the wealth from other land, this competition was there. And when his Western disciples were pointing to Swamiji that, see, what a prosperous nation we have built. And Swamiji was saying, you can imagine in the late 1900s, when no one was thinking of world war, no idea was there. They were thinking the West is prosperous, they are the one who is showing the way to the entire world. They never thought of this devastating world wars. No idea was there. Swamiji was silently replying. Whenever he was shown this prosperity, he was just saying, I see the entire Europe is sitting on the apex of a volcano to erupt anytime. These are the prophetic words. He's just sitting on the apex of a volcano to erupt anytime. So what has happened? Why we are speaking all these things? There are moral laws. Just the way when you say, I don't believe in gravitation and jump out of a 20-story building, law is law. It doesn't depend on your belief. You are going to fall, crash and die. And that's what we are facing today. We are facing today at present because we have broken the laws which finds expression as the moral laws. And that in Bhagavad Gita has been called as Yajna. Now you will understand what a broad meaning it has. Saha Yajna praja srishtva puro vacha prajapati. When the Lord has created this creation, He created along with Yajna. So if you say fire sacrifice, it has no meaning. Lord has created with the fire sacrifice. What does it mean? So if you read the Gita's slokas perfectly, He has created with the idea of synergy. We have to be helping each other, kind towards each other, cooperate each other, and that way we both prosper. We all overcome our limitations and prosper. So there the idea of give and take has been expanded to that idea of the yajna which we find in the entire universe. Now in the Bhagavad Gita, the 3rd chapter, when we were studying that yajna, it was mainly my relation to the external world. What I sacrifice for, that for my own pleasure, if I try to extract the nature. Why the global warming? Now it is a winter, now I want my room to be air conditioned, and you know that air condition also is responsible for global warming. So my own pleasure is at the cost of the so-called the entire ecology. So if you are not cooperating, you are trying to exploit, then you are going to disintegrate the nature. But you have to cooperate. So now we are thinking of ways that how we can have carbon neutral way of having this more fuel. We have learned through experience. We are now trying our best to go to that zero carbon, what is the society where there won't be any such this emission of carbon dioxide, no greenhouse effect. But whatever was there, what has happened is that the same thing, we were breaking the laws of nature, what we were speaking of. So in 3rd chapter, the idea was I have some relation to the external environment. I have to sacrifice something to get something from the environment. So that was the idea. In the 4th chapter, now the concept of yajna will be again continued, where here the idea is not with the environment, that we are a spiritual being who have somehow got enchained in this psychophysical existence. And now there is a particular way to interact with your psychophysical existence. You have to renounce certain short-term goals. It is not with it has something to do with the society. For your own, in your own life, I have to renounce certain short-term goals for some long-term goals. So generally the word renunciation means something negative. So here it is not in any way negative. If you can understand the renunciation in such a way that I am going to get something positive for something by renouncing something trivial. Even in the modern psychology, there is a famous experiment called marshmallow experiment. So many times we refer to that. That there also they speak the same thing. What's the marshmallow experiment? That many of you know, just to give a very short, in a short this idea of it. A group of children have been experimented with these marshmallows. The children like marshmallow. So if you somehow become friendly with this child, just start chatting with him, and he becomes friendly, and then you give a marshmallow, immediately he is going to have it. The child, he or she likes it. And now you say the child, wait. You want this marshmallow? Yeah. Well, okay, I'm going out. In this plate, I'm keeping this marshmallow. I'm not taking it with me. I'm just keeping it here. And I will come back after 10 minutes. I have some work. Would you like another marshmallow? Second one? Well, yeah. Well, then if after returning I find this marshmallow is still there, you have not eaten it, I'm going to give you the second marshmallow. Well and good. And there's a CCTV camera to just watch later the reactions of the children. And we find we are not going to the details. This is very funny reactions are there. But in most of the cases, about 90% cases, they succumb to the temptation. Knowingly that they are going to get the second marshmallow. If they wait, they cannot wait. It's not only the children, even for us the same thing. So they get lured, they take it. Only a few somehow, they have struggled a lot and could resist. But the experiment doesn't end here. The experiment was conducted on these children. And now the university, the famous university, they kept tracking those children for another 10-15 years just to see how they are developing. And what they came out was with a wonderful conclusion that we say it is the IQ which determines our destiny, that how intelligent you are. And then they started saying it's this emotional quotient, your emotions, your intelligence. And now they have started saying they are secondary. Primary thing is how much capacity you have to delay your gratifications. That decides your destiny. Because they found an interesting thing. In that study, they found an interesting thing, that it is not the children with high IQ. Those who could somehow, that small percentage of children who could resist the temptation of taking the marshmallow and could wait, it is they who succeeded, who were more flourishing in life. Whether it's their academics is concerned, whether their profession is concerned, they were more successful. And then they tried to find out the reason. And then they found the reason is very simple. That this 10% of the children were not myopic, were not short-sighted. They were not concerned with the immediate goals. They somehow had the vision of the much broader goals waiting for them ahead of time. So they were aware of that. And that's how they could resist the short-term goals for the long-term goals. And that speaks the reason for their flourishment, for flourishing in future, for excelling in future. So that's the wonderful experiment which we find is being mentioned as yajna in the 4th chapter. That if you have to give away something to really receive something, that's the idea of yajna, then give away those, sacrifice those short-term goals for some long-term goals, and that can be varied ways of doing that. So various types of yajnas will be spoken of, but the basic idea is give away your short-term goals to get some long-term goals, and that will be discussed from the 24th to the 33rd sloka of the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So the first starts with the 24th. It's a very famous mantra we chant every day. In our order, they say that there is a generally what is some spiritual dictums. They say that it is good to chant Gita every day, it is good to chant Chandi every day, and we jokingly say, we as a Ramakrishna Mission Swamis, we do chant Gita every day, and everyone, we chant Gita every day and we chant Chandi every day. You know how? Because while taking food, we chant this mantra, Brahma Pranam Brahmavi, it's from Bhagavad Gita. And every day during the evening arati, that Sarva Mangala Mangalye, that is from Chandi. So that way we are chanting, though it is very small, we are chanting the Chandi and the Bhagavad Gita every day. So this very famous sloka, which you all know, is the 24th sloka of the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. What it is? Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavi, Brahmagnau, Brahmanahutam, Brahmaiva tena gantavyam, Brahma karma samadhina. And then, of course, we say Hari Om Tat Sat. That Hari Om Tat Sat is not a part of the sloka. So what this sloka means? Brahma Pranam Brahmahavi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina. So just now we discovered that wonderful idea of Om Rim Ritam. It is the Brahman which is finding expression as Shakti, energy, all sorts of activities, and that again is following certain principles. So if that's true, then all the activities I am seeing is nothing but the manifestation of Brahman. The potentiality finding expression, so it is only Brahman and Brahman alone which is manifested in this universe. As has been spoken of in our scriptures as Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma. Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma. Everything is Brahman. It's finding expression is manifesting as this world. But behind this is that unitary principle, the Brahman. So whatever activities I am doing, from this awareness that everything, all activities, all energy, everything, the material form, everything after all has originated from Brahman. If this awareness you are having, then what happens? Then each and every activity becomes worship. There is no more compartment between secular and spiritual. At present, I think that throughout the day what I am doing is my secular life, my job, my service, my family activities, and somehow I have to save some time for my spiritual activities, either it is in the morning or even in the evening. As Sri Ramakrishna very jokingly used to say that all our spiritual practices are before breakfast. there our spirituality ends. In the morning we wake up, have a shower, clean ourselves, we have some particular set of clothes, we wear that, go to the small, as per the most of the Hindu families or the Sanatana Dharma families, what they do, in the house they have a small closet, a small area, which they call the shrine. They will go there and they will offer some incense, some flower, maybe some offerings, and sit there, chant some mantras, do some meditation, feels uplifted. Of course, it's that you are communing with the divine, and then you come back. Now it's a time to have breakfast and then go for your work. So again you change your set of clothes, and the moment you are now in the breakfast table, now you think, now I have to fight with the world. That's over. So it is a watertight compartment. So this is spiritual, this is secular. So this is the sloka where it is actually defying your entire existence with spirituality, diffusing your entire existence with spirituality, permeating your entire existence with spirituality. Nothing remains secular. Everything becomes spiritual. How? If I know it is the Lord alone which is finding expression in everything. As few days back in our Swami temple, that suddenly I just spoke of this famous saying in Kashi, that Kashi ke har kankar hai bhole shankar. That each and every pebble in Kashi is Lord Shiva and Shiva alone. Kashi ke har kankar. So this is the wonderful idea of deification. It is the Lord who is manifesting himself as the universe. If I can see that, if I'm aware of that, then every act becomes a worship. Nothing remains secular. And that's the wonderful yajna, with the idea of worshipping the divine, by the divine. You are divine. That in all the ritualistic worship is based on just two principles. One is called this Devang Bhutva Devang Yajat, and another is this. Another is this. What do you say that exactly? That the idea behind that is that whatever you like, that you offer to the divine. That's first you think yourself as the divine, and then whatever you like. That I like mangoes. So then the season when the mangoes come, I may be greedy. I may go and just simply take it. So the scripture is saying, don't do that. You take the mangoes, but in the middle, do some one more act, and then you can take the mangoes. What? You bring and offer it to the divine. Offer it to the divine. And then it's more of our mental orientation. Now when I'm having, it is a thing which I relish. I'm passionate about it. I might have a tremendous greed for it. But now your greed is getting sublimed. When you're taking, you feel you're taking something sacred. It has been offered to the divine. It has become prasadam. So just think, your greed is being converted into devotion. Isn't it? So that's the wonderful idea which we find in this world. So what is happening? That the censored thing is becoming spiritual. If you can see the divine in each and everything. The entire Durga Puja is based on that principle. The entire Durga Puja. That the mother is every day, that they will be doing Sringar to the mother with 64 items. And what not are there? The water of all the oceans, the water of all the rivers, and then in the forest, the boar will be digging the soil. Where the boars have dug the soil, they have the habit of digging out the soil. So that soil, which has been dug by the boar, that is used. Why? So throughout the year, you have collected all those things. And now you have worshipped them with the cereals, the rice, your pulses, everything is used. And now after the worship, as you have used it for the worship, after the worship, all these things get associated with the divine. Even in pujas, sometimes the things which are used, you may have a big question why they use it. That the women of ill repute, where they stay in their courtyard, the soil that is used for mother's worship. Why they use it? The idea is now I go through that place, I look with hatreds. I'll have a very negative feeling there. After the worship, as you have associated everything with the divine, now everything gets deified. You see the same thing, instead of negative feelings, a positive devotion is bound to come. If you have understood the rituals, I haven't done it. The entire world gets deified. Everything has got associated with the divine, even the so-called negative things. That's why everything is offered. All sorts of things are offered, so that you associate all of them. That example which I give again and again, previously I have gave, if you remember, that a brahmachari of our order joined the order and he was asked to do the puja, everyday puja. And now he found that one of the puja item which he is using is the so-called all the perfumes. And he told, for the divine worship, why perfumes? It's for me, it's a big distraction, because before becoming a Swami, at home I was attending my sister's wedding ceremony and all the social events where all use this type of perfumes. And during the worship, when that fragrance comes of the perfume, it distracts me. It makes me think of all those family events and all. Why we are using all those things? And he was told, just these are the rules which we are following. Just follow. If you have too many questions, sometimes it's very difficult for me to answer, because all Swamis don't have ready-made answers. Some of the Swamis do have a lot of answers who have to stay with the students. Like I had to stay with the students for 12 years. So they are always questioning. But all the Swamis are not always staying with the students. So they found those rituals help them. Now how they help them, most probably they have no explanation. So the senior Swami told, I cannot explain you. No one has invited you to become a monk. You can. And these are the ways we live. If you find it suits you, well and good, you stay. And if you find the gate is always open, anytime anyone you can come, anyone can go. So you just leave it. Now this brahmachari never thought such a harsh reply would come, but he continued with his worship. He never got a satisfactory answer. He continued with his worship. After a few months, he himself found the answer. What he's saying, a wonderful thing, that now as a pujari, every day they're offering the fruits and other things. To purchase them, the pujari has to go to the shop, to the marketplace. And now there are all types of shops are there. So he's saying that I'm going through the busy this marketplace for buying the fruits, and by chance I was passing by a shop, perfume shop. And then again I get the friends, which just you are passing by the perfume shop, the fragrance of the perfume comes, and now I find that how it has changed. The same smell used to distract me during the puja, and now in the busy market, in the noisy place, the same smell is making me calm. Suddenly I feel that it is associated with that when I am sitting in the asana of the puja, worshipping, using this smell, now it is associated with the divine. The same thing now is instead of disturbing you, is calming you down. So this is called deification. So when you can see the Lord in everything, in Bhagavatam there is a slok, that if you can see in God in everything, how can you hate others? Even you cannot hate your enemy. And then a wonderful example they are giving. While taking food, accidentally your tongue gets bitten by your teeth. Whom do you blame? You know, both are the same person. It's the same person, so you don't blame anyone. So when you know it is the same thing. So that's the idea which we will find in this sloka. Brahmarpanam. Arpana. During the fire sacrifice. First take it as a fire sacrifice. The act of offering. The act of offering. Act of oblation. Pouring oblation. That is Brahma. Arpana. Act of offering is Brahma. Brahmarpanam. This and Brahma Havi. Brahma Havi. Havi is the ghee, the clarified butter. The thing, that oblation which you are offering. That is Brahman. The one who is offering, he is Brahman. The act of offering is Brahman. The Havi, the thing which is offered is Brahman. Brahmagno, where you are offering, in the fire, that is Brahman. And this, this Brahmaiva tena gantavyam, the destiny is Brahman. Brahma karma samadhina. So the one who knows that the one who is offering the oblation, he is Brahman. The thing which is offered, he is Brahman. the object to which you are offering it. He is Brahman, the Gantavya is Brahman, everything is Brahman. So he intuitively sees Brahman in all his action. So it speaks of Karma Yoga. The action is going on, but you are established in Brahman. That speaks of contemplation in the world of action. Contemplation doesn't mean just sitting down with your eyes closed for meditation. So sometimes jokingly we say that meditation is the most respectable way of doing nothing. It's the most respectable way of doing nothing. So it doesn't mean that you have to just simply sit down and close your eyes for meditation. You can be fiercely working in the world, but you can be in a contemplative mode. You have changed your awareness. That's the contemplation in the world of action. And that's being spoken of here. And why we do it, just chant it before taking food? Because even in Bhagavad Gita, in the 15th chapter, there is a slok. That is sloka. It's called Ahang Vaishwanaro Bhutva Praninang Deham Asritam Pranapana Samayukta Pacham Anyang Chaturvidham. That God is saying, Krishna is saying, that within the human body I am Vaishwanara, the digestive fire, which is digesting. It is like a fire, in which the food is the oblation. That I am the one who has the digestive fire, is digesting 4 types of food. In this, what are the 4 types? The 4 way we intake the food is 4 types. Charva, Chashya, Lehya, Peya. That we either take food by chewing, or by sucking, or by licking, or by drinking. So these are the 4 ways. These are 4 types of food. It is the I as the Vaishwana, as the fire, digestive fire, helping in digestion and assimilation. So he is everything. To remember that idea that he is everything. So why do it before taking food? Because that is the thing we cannot avoid. Whenever we are busy, we can say, today I was so busy I couldn't meditate. I had to leave my meditation. I was so busy. I couldn't. So all the spiritual activities you can simply say I was busy, I couldn't do. But you cannot say I was busy, I cannot take food. You cannot do that. So very nicely our senior sadhus have made it that before food you do that. Because food you cannot miss. So at least that will speak of your awareness of that unitive idea. That everything is Brahman. So if you do even that short prayer sincerely, that also is to have a wonderful effect in your life. That everything is one. That food, the morsel of food you are eating is an ambassador from God. Because there is in an article came in a National Geographic, very nice, that the sun is our mother. And then in that article they are saying very interesting that the food is sun, what we are eating is sun, what we are wearing is sun, the cotton, because it is the sunlight, after all, which is getting converted into all your food, the vegetables, crops, everything, the cotton, everything. So we are eating sun, we are wearing sun. So life and light, this can never be separated, life and light. So what it speaks of is again, this give and take, this interdependence. Just see, life is manifesting in so many forms. So that's the idea, that when you're taking a morsel of food, don't think that you are something separate, food is something separate. It is the same divine entity which is finding expression as the, the sacrificer, and as the thing which is sacrificed. Everything is Brahman. So now, it just doesn't become a physical act of having food. It becomes a worship where in the act of taking food, you are in communion with the divine. So that's the idea behind this. Is Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavi, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam, Brahmaiva tena gantavyam, Brahma karma samadhina. So there is a famous song of Ram Prasad, where one line is there that whatever we are doing is worship. That when you are sleeping, think that you are in samadhi. So then another line is there, Ahar kori mone karo, ahuti di shamamake. That when you are taking food, think you are offering oblation to the divine, sitting in your heart as the Vaishwanara, as the fire of digestion, of assimilation, whatever it is. So you are offering oblations there. So this is the wonderful idea with which the idea of Yajna speaks of, that idea of that unified principle from which the entire world has emanated. Think of that. Envelop the entire existence with that. And then there is no other worship required for you. You become spiritually aware at each and every moment of your life. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita ma gridaha kasya siddhanam. The same idea. That envelop the entire existence with the divine. And that's a wonderful idea. In the last class also we were saying that sometimes those who are not brought up with these ideas, they have a lot of questions. Like when Swami Vivekananda was relating this idea to the West, one lady stood up and told, Swamiji, it's a very nice idea. Swamiji asked that, what appealed you, that why you say it's a nice idea? It's a nice way to hypnotize. It is a nice way to hypnotize all so that there can be peace. That there is variety. You cannot deny there is variety. You are separate. But when you say we are all one, that idea of unity somehow can bring harmony, peace in the society. So it's a nice way of hypnotizing. And Swamiji told, Madam, you are already hypnotized. What I am doing is dehypnotizing you. Everything is the Brahman. You are seeing the variety. Because as you are hypnotized, you are seeing the variety. I am dehypnotizing you. Vedanta is dehypnotizing you. And that's the thing Gita is doing here. It is dehypnotizing us. That the variety you see behind that is the Brahman and Brahman alone, which is finding expression as this universe. So now we will proceed from 24 to the 33rd. It will go on speaking of various types of yajna. So one by one we will take up. So here we find that all the actions, behind all the action is Brahman. And from 25th to the 33rd, it's not only the actions, even the laws behind the actions. That rhythm. Even the rhythm is also an expression of Brahman. And if you know the rhythm, you can regulate your life accordingly to give away something trivial, to receive something which is much more precious. And that's the idea will be spoken of from the 25th to the 33rd, where various types of yajnas has been prescribed for the person in various stages of life. Some are brahmacharis, some are grihasthas, some are vanaprasthis, some are sannyasis. Some have taken the path of meditation, some have taken the path of devotion. So as per your nature, you can resort to this idea of yajna in varied ways. That has been spoken of from the 25th to the 33rd sloka of the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. It's very interesting. If you read by yourself, sometimes the literal meaning will make no sense. That's why you have to resort to the commentaries of these acharyas, Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya. Even there are so many treatises on those commentaries. One of the very famous treatises of Sridhar Swami. So we will resort to those treatises also to understand the real implications. And you will find that once the interpretation is given, you find there is no as such, there is some gray zone in the meaning of these slokas. That exactly what the thing is interpreted is being spoken of. But as these slokas of some 7,000, 8,000, we don't know how old they are. There is so much gap in this means our way of living and in those days way of living. So the language has changed, everything has changed. So without interpretation, it becomes sometimes difficult to understand. So we will take the help of this interpretation to have the wonderful idea of those yajnas which has been spoken of, where it is not the give and take between me and the external world. It is within me. I renounce something trivial to get something really precious. So, and that speaks of your spiritual journey. In Gita, in the later chapters, the word apti will come again and again. What does apti mean? Apti means to get. But we will say, but in Sanskrit, the word prapti means to get. But why in Gita they have used apti? So even in Gita, the use of the word is very scientific. Prapti means apraptasya prapti. That I want to become, say, a lawyer. So I am not a lawyer now. Through all my educations, aprapta, the thing which I am not at present, through my endeavor, I am going to get that. Such and such model of car I want. So I trying to earn money and whatever it may be, through all your endeavors, at last you get it. So all the apraptasya prapti is prapti. And what is apti? Why Gita is using the word apti? Because he's saying you won't have to get something which is already not yours. It is already yours. That you are already that self, the potential, you are already divine. Somehow you are forgetful about it. So it is not apraptasya prapti. Praptasya prapti, the thing which is already with you. You are somehow have forgotten about it. To get it back. So there some yajna is required, some endeavor is required, some tapas is required. So those things which is already with you, to be aware of those things, to know your real nature, of which you are forgetful. For that, certain procedures are there. And that will be spoken of in the form of various yajnas from the 25th to the 33rd verse, which we will take up again in the next class. We are not, because if we enter, again it will take a lot of time to take them one by one for explanation. So though we have some time, we are just leaving it today here, that we will take up from the 25th to the 33rd in the next class. Maybe not in one class, maybe in two classes we will cover that portion from the 25th to the 33rd verse of the 4th chapter. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.